Hello everybody, welcome to episode number 13 of the Speaking Podcast. I'm your host, Roy Coughlan. You'll find all our episodes on speakingpodcast.com. You'll also find us on Facebook, Instagram and YouTube on Speaking Podcast. And if you have any questions, you can email roy@speakingpodcast.com. We would be grateful as well if you would give us a high rating and comment on iTunes or whatever platform that you listen to. Today I want to talk about how to prepare a speech, because I'm involved heavily in 3 clubs and I see a lot of people struggle with creating a speech. So I think I have sped up the process, because I'd mentioned in my first episode that I wrote out the speech that I'd done and practiced it so many times, repeating it in the car, recording it, and on the day, halfway through my speech, I paused. So I realised that's not really a very good system for me. I've got equal custody of my son, so time is very important. So when I'm with my child, I want to be playing games with him and everything. I don't want to be writing speeches, because I have a speech at least once a week, or I'm the host, so I want to use my time wisely. And what I found is by creating a mind map. So what I'm going to discuss this week is the speech I did on Tuesday. And it's already been uploaded to the YouTube channel, Speaking Podcast, but I'm also going to post the picture of the mind map on the Facebook group Speaking Podcast, just so you see exactly how I did this one. What I do in the mind map is I create the title right in the center. So the project that I'm doing it's innovation planning, and I had to talk about making connections through networking. So the title that I gave it was My Networking Tips. And I like to give value to the audience. I don't just like to speak for the sake of speaking. I always want to try to see how I can help people sitting that are spending their time listening to me. So I started off with the introduction saying that the majority of people go to networking events, but very few are able to network effectively. So that statement is connecting people. Sometimes you can use a stronger statement, and depending on the speech, sometimes I use something that will catch people's attention. But for that speech, I thought that was enough for that. Then I gave examples of different people in networking events. So I gave good examples and bad. The first thing I did is I had my business cards, and I went around and I started shaking people's hands and quickly moved on to the next. And I called it a blackjack dealer. So I was able to use a prop, and that in turn connected me with the audience and made it engaging. I wasn't just sitting static on the stage. Next, I was saying about if you're talking to somebody and you're looking over their shoulder, that you're looking for the next victim. You're not engaged in the conversation. You're not really listening. You're trying to see who's the next person you're going to talk to. And I gave the example that it's like being in the nightclub and you're looking for a better partner. I then mentioned that if you start talking to somebody and they're extremely boring. So we've all been in that situation, that you're at a networking event and you just end up talking to somebody and it's just not an engaging conversation. So I gave the example, it's like watching a kettle boil or watching paint dry. And I told them not to use the typical thing where you say, oh, I'm just going to the bathroom, I'll come back later, but you don't. You end up trying to avoid that person for the rest of the day. What I suggested is you talk to the person and say, listen, I came here to connect with a few people, so I'm going to go around and try to talk to a few other people and I'll catch up with you later. That way it's a bit more respectful, because if you do tell them that you're coming back and they see you coming back and not going near them, you're going to hurt their feelings. So I don't think it was the right way to do it. Other points that I've done, and you'll see it if you get a chance to actually look into the Facebook page where you're seeing the mind map. Sometimes I'll write a sentence and other times just little key words, depending on the mind map that I'm doing. Another one I wrote the BNI in Ireland and Poland. So I gave examples of how the networking worked in that group in Ireland and in Poland. And you'll see it in the speech. I'm not going to go into it in detail here because it's irrelevant. And I gave positive points and negative points all through the speech. And then at the end, I had a conclusion that, so you have a few ideas, techniques, and I recommend that the next event that you go to, you know what type of outcome you have, and you'll have a better chance of achieving that. And afterwards, the people that were there came up and thanked me because, one, I was given points where I knew the audience could relate to. Most people would have seen a blackjack dealer. Most people would have got into a situation where they're talking with somebody that's extremely boring. So you're connecting with them and you're showing them how to get around that situation. So that's one point in a speech. If you can actually make a connection with the audience, then there's a better chance that they will connect with you. Another thing that I've done, like I usually do these mind maps on my phone, or I've done it on an iPad as well, but I find that with the phone, you'll always have the phone with you. You'll not necessarily have an iPad with you. So you can have a quick look at it or update it as you're going along. There's been times as well where I would print the mind map, so I have it in front of me just to give me a quick kind of reminder prior to going up on stage. Other times what I've done is I've printed off where I'll have just bullet points, and I put the bullet points in the order that I want, so that when I'm kind of running it through my head, I'm able to know the structure. A lot of the times that I've done these mind maps, afterwards I go, oh, I forgot this, I forgot that. But it doesn't really matter, because once you have your introduction and your conclusion and your cover points, the audience will never know. Obviously, the more practice you do, that's not going to happen. But for that situation, that last speech, I didn't practice it once. I just ran through it with the points that I had. And when I was on stage, I was happy with my performance. So it wasn't a lot of time that was needed. Obviously, depending on the speech that you're going to do, if you're doing a TEDx or you're doing something really important, you'll want to practice, make sure your timing and everything is okay. I'm intentionally doing a short podcast this week. I'm trying to have two. I mentioned it in a few episodes before, one of the longer ones, because some of the podcasts that I do with my guests can be 20 minutes to an hour. And it was actually one of the listeners, Michał Marcinkowski, said to me that sometimes, if he's on a bus or a tram ride or something like that, or even driving his car, and he's got 10-15 minutes, he'll listen to a full episode. But if there's one that's nearly an hour, he has to schedule it, and so that's why you get the option then of having the two different ones. This year we've been number 5 in the educational charts in the USA. We've been number 7 in the UK. And that's all thanks to you, the listener, for giving positive reviews and comments and subscribing. And I really appreciate that. So if you find value in these, I recommend, one, you can listen again, obviously, but share with people that you think would benefit from public speaking. Another thing is just try to get a message out there. If you want to make change, you can start practicing by doing your speeches, whether you join a club. If you're trying to create a movement, you can start doing your speeches based on that, and it'll just make you competent in that area. As I mentioned, everything will be on the Facebook page. There's also a book from one of the guests, so you get that, and soon I'll be giving another ebook, so it's well worth registering on the Facebook so that you're following us there. So thanks for listening, and as always, you can find us on Speaking Podcast, Instagram, YouTube, and I would appreciate a positive comment. So until next week, thank you very much.